Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another exciting Advisor Shares Alpha Nooner. Hat? What's that?
I got my hat, man.
Oh,
Normally I come on
Brandon.
here. I don't want people to see my bald head.
It's all falling apart. It's
And
all right. You can grab.
call me boomer and stuff like that. That's not right.
That's not right. We'll not be ageist here on the Alpha Nooner. Don't worry about that. But thanks for joining us, everyone. Really appreciate it. Excited to sit down. We've got Noah Hamman back in the mix. Thanks for joining us, Noah. Really appreciate it. We're going to spend some time talking through Future Proof. I know that's a conference we've been to recently. A lot of great, interesting conversations with advisors there. Probably chat a little bit about the market. And I'm sure, of course, we'll probably touch on some thematic elements, some cannabis conversation as we go along to some degree as well. If you're out there, of course, good reminder, feel free to
I'm
drop a
out here.
question. You're welcome to drop a
I'm
question
out
as
there.
well. If you've got questions, you can drop them as well in the comments. I see Stevie in there already. Great to see you, Stevie. But yeah, comments are great. Questions are great, of course, as well. And then always want to encourage
Oh,
you,
look at that.
like, subscribe, and share. The classic call to action. But it does help sort of, elevate the conversation, especially when we're talking, I think, cannabis. I think that's an important element. But if this is helpful for you, we try to design them to make them to be helpful for you. We hope you share with your friends and they get some use out of it as well. So with all that said,
We should try to get people to sign up to our email.
I mean, if you like email,
I do.
interesting emails, fun things, we definitely have on the website I think it's at the upper right-hand side. We have a button that you can stay in touch kind of generally with what's going on. But if you're interested in specific themes, products, I think we also have a way that you can kind of customize what you're getting there. I think we're putting out some interesting stuff on that end, kind of keeping things current.
It's a
And
good
then,
way to make sure you don't miss, I guess, some content, right? If you're just following it on the socials, you'll get this and get that. You may not get everything, but if you're in the emails, you'll see it. You'll see links to stuff we've posted, and you'll see other, educational insight. So
Mhm.
yeah, sign up for the email as well.
Yeah, I think it's good. It gives you kind of an update in terms of also what's coming up. If the webinars coming up, if we've got things like that, it'll kind of remind you there. So all that stuff is there. And then, of course, I know we talk about it a lot, but I do think genuinely following on social can be helpful, I think, in terms of staying in tune with what's coming up
Is
as
it?
well. It's a double-edged sword, I guess,
Not
whatever, but
after
we do
my
post everything.
24 hours, right?
Yeah, we'll talk about that too. What a crazy time, but I think
Here's what I
it's all
really want to
fine.
know.
It's
I
nothing
saw your
new.
videos that you posted on the updates from Future Proof. It looks so
Yes.
bright and sunny.
Thank you so
How did
much.
you get put into some darkened hole somewhere and all the beach
I
vibes are gone?
I'm trying to recover. I can tilt my camera. I can show you it does have a very beachy vibe from the
Oh,
window. You can see the shadows of the palm trees. Feels very
yes.
California-y. But yes, lucky to be, I mean, it's beautiful in California, I will say. I know everyone comes here for the weather a lot of the time. But I think it is nice to be out of the sun a little bit. But it was very nice. Used a lot of sunscreen. I had Eddie Elfenbein in a ton of sunscreen, Dan in a ton of sunscreen. Carter, I think he had his own sunscreen, which is good. But solid.
How were the towels giveaway? Did people love it? Were people just clamoring for them, or they were like, "Yeah, it's
I
another towel"?
I am not bringing back a single towel, if you believe it. So, well, we shipped some to the office as well. This is what these towels look like. We tried to lean into the California design. So, to do something fun, little fun towel giveaway. I know we're heading to the end of summer, but I feel like you can always use a towel. I feel like ultimately summer will come around again. Everything's cyclical. But yeah, I feel like we'll do maybe a giveaway at some point. We should do a towel giveaway at some point.
Giveaway
Let me
Noah's
work on
towel,
that. Yeah, that specific one.
unused, just for the record. Unless
People
you're an
are
anonymous
selling
account, and I'll send you the used one.
people are selling bathwater and all sorts of crazy things. I feel like a towel is at least the least
It's a
crazy of
good
those things in a
idea.
sell.
My bathwater.
Oh, gross. How do you
Ah,
get a
shroom
towel?
sleep.
So
Probably DM McKinsey shroom sleep.
yes, if you
That'll be a
do.
good way to get one.
Yep, that
Though
sounds
you
good.
probably only do have a few left, so might be first come, first serve kind of thing.
That is true. Yeah, we only do have a few left. We sent some to the office. But yeah, we got rid of all of them here, which is great. I think a lot of people really love them. I'm surprised by how many people have their favorite color is orange. So that worked out very well with our branding in general.
Nice.
Kind of also feels relevant to the new Apple drop. I know they have a new orange phone now, which is very exciting for all those orange lovers out there. But yeah, no, I think people really like the merch. The
Kudos
thing
to
that
our marketing department.
Very and shout out to Steve Quinn, who's done a
Oh,
fantastic
yes.
job on the
Yep.
designing. So thank you so much out there. But yeah, I think a lot of the things that were surprising in terms of like merch or things that we're picking up, people still really love the psychedelics hat, the
Nice.
blue bucket hat.
Yeah. All
The
right.
tie-dye bucket hat is still, I think, top favorite.
We can do
So that
more of
was an
that.
interesting one. We can, but I think that's actually technically a limited run for these specific designs because I think they are changing the manufacturer.
You know what
So,
I wanted to do was visors. Get it? Advisors. There's
oh, dang,
the
that's a good one. I like it. All right. There you go. All right. We'll have to get something into production. But yeah, that was good. I think another thing that was popular, which I actually have on hand, which is shout out to Mats and Money. A lot of the
oh,
fans were very popular.
fans.
And
Really?
of course, we had
Is that a
thought
battery
before
charger
coming,
too, or just a fan?
it's a just a fan, but it's
Hmm.
battery operated. A nice little way to get a cool breeze, but something that we
Nice.
actually looked at doing, bringing to the conference because of the industrial fan tie-in, which would have been
That's a good
interesting.
idea
So,
too.
but they were very popular. So I think it's nice to have something that was a little differentiated, a little different from the towel and the hat side. So it was good overall. I think in terms of swag. Yeah, very interesting. I think it's one of the conferences where you get more than just sort of pens or notebooks. People are really putting out some interesting stuff, and
Cool.
it ties into the future thing, I think.
Let's talk about the business stuff. So here's my first question. What was, would you say, in
Mm.
your opinion, observation, I know only, what was sort of the most active conversations from a product perspective? I mean, on one hand, it might be obvious that it'd be heavily cannabis focused, but were there other topics, strategies that got people's interest?
So I think from like the booth perspective, not
Hmm.
surprisingly, because we had Eddie there, and I think because he's
Oh,
doing
so
well
you
and
know,
has like a really interesting yet differentiated one, and I think it's the kind of sweet spot that he's in with kind of that mid cap blend
hmm
is something that most advisors at least want some element of. Definitely hearing from, for anyone who doesn't know, they do match up the advisors and have kind of a speed dating element to it where we'll have, Carter will go chat with an advisor, kind of match up and see what they're looking for, what they need, if there's something, a better tool out there for them. I think there was one that definitely did own a ton of I won't mention the product, a certain other product of midcap, and was, I think, surprised and happy to know that there was something else that was really providing some better support,
very
I guess, for
cool.
clients ultimately there. So that was a good one. I think it helps obviously Eddie being there, being very personable, and I think having a good
Well,
strategy
he's
behind it
kind
ultimately.
of known by that group, right? He's an old school blogger and been on social for a while and very good at what he does. But I think he's more well known by that group, right? Josh Brown and the various other podcasters and advisors
Yes,
that
that's
have
true.
it.
He definitely had some fun conversations with people, but I think some of the people who are walking through who are more on the advisor side were more interested to kind of learn more about him. I think
Hmm.
you would think being in California, having all this news on cannabis potentially making a change soon, you think it would be very cannabis focused. There was a
Hmm.
good amount of cannabis, of course, but I think the main exciting part was actually sort of more on the industrial side, talking about the newer products and kind of what's going on there. I think a lot of people were got it really quickly in terms of that makes sense. I'm surprised that there's not something that is the first thing to capture that ultimately.
Right. Till they
So I
pull
think
up
a
the
lot of
chart and they're like, oh,
well, that is true. Well, I mean, yeah. So, but I mean, I think that was a really strong one, and I think unlike cannabis, I think cannabis we talk about as sort of, that's something that you're interested in or you're not. If you are interested, we think that we have a good way to kind of access that theme. But I think more sort of on the industrial side, most people have exposure to industrials. So I think that being able to pull out a sliver of that is, interesting. And I think
eh,
was compelling for a lot of people. So that was a lot of the
and
conversation.
fair to describe it as really just mostly a financial advisor conference, right? I
Yes.
mean, you talk about the speed dating thing, which is something I try to point out to people a lot
Hmm.
in terms of what we try to do, right, to help the space drive growth, drive upward, pressure on prices. Is
Hmm.
it's quite simply the more people that we can buy in any particular product, the more buying pressure it puts on it, right? And so you might not notice the buying pressure on stocks in something like what Eddie has, because it's much bigger stocks and things like that. But in these other categories where these stocks are smaller and smaller flows can be very impactful, that's the best way for us to try to drive growth in the prices and in the returns. And obviously, Dan has to do his part relative to what he's picking. But we do events like this, and it's not cheap to do
No,
it.
it is not.
You said
But
you were covering this one though this time, right? Is that what you told
I'll foot
me?
the bill. You did the last one. I'll take this one. I feel like whatever. But yeah, no, I think, definitely an important part of the work that I think we're trying to do, especially on the cannabis side, especially, I think is trying to provide that education. I think there are a certain number of advisors who are totally green, don't really know the cannabis theme at all. So I think there's certain education there. But then I do think there are people who, heard about it maybe 5 years ago, kind of were like, yeah, I knew something was going on in the cannabis space, but then kind of lost track of it. So I think kind of retuning them into kind of where we are in the cannabis story, all that stuff, I think all adds to ultimately, better educated advisors. And if they do have clients that want cannabis, there are several, that does hopefully translate into, the names, the underlying, all that stuff.
So tell me the best. I don't know if you had a chance to sit on a lot of sessions, but what would you describe as one of the better ones? Who was there? What did they talk about?
So not a session. Oh, I'll do a session and a non-session just to do both. I do really, really like, I think the Odd Lots podcast, not to go on about them all the time, but I do think they do a really good job. I think they cover a lot of really interesting, I like how they balance sort of current stuff and current kind of macro, what they're seeing, but also with kind of weird quirks of the market and kind of talking through, some education on that element. I think this one was more kind of macro, what's going on. Why is gold up while equities are up? Something strange there. Is it a problem, or kind of what's going on there? But so I think that was really cool. Just great to see them again in person. It's one that I listen to a lot, and I think a lot of people out there do listen to as well. So I think that was just kind of fun to see them. Tried to see them in person. I missed them this go around, but hopefully at some point we'll be able to see them. But then in terms of sessions, I think there was one that I caught that I was kind of talking about in one of the updates where was kind of talking about kind of the similar things. I think a lot of the trends were sort of like things are really good. We're hitting all-time highs all the time. Things seem to be roaring, but there's sort of an underlying nervousness around, is this sustainable? Is there going to be kind of another foot that drops ultimately? So he was talking about Nvidia, of course, and kind of talking about, is it overvalued? A lot of people obviously are talking about, is that trade kind of too overcrowded? But I think he was comparing its PE where it was roughly around like 26 to Walmart and Costco, and how much more Walmart and Costco are overvalued, have a higher PE ratio. So saying tech does still technically have more room to run, even though it feels overcrowded, and kind of breaking down ultimately other factors, I think, that make people feel more nervous about kind of where we are currently, versus where we might actually end up being, if
It,
I'm renting.
it reminds me of, I'll do a callback shout out of
Yes.
Emilio
Hmm.
Ciccone. Am I
Yeah.
pronouncing his last name
Double.
correctly?
Yeah.
And remember how he used to talk about value, right? He would use the Google example of, if you looked at where they were trading 10 years ago when people were like, this is way overly valued. The multiples are too high, the PE, the P whatever. And then you fast forward in time and you're like, that was the cheapest price you were going to get that in a long, if ever, right? In a long
Mhm.
time. And I think you could, not all the tech companies, but I think you could easily take that same mindset, right? As big of a multiple as Tesla has, or as big as a multiple as Nvidia has, and it seems way overpriced and outrageously expensive on just a financial metrics valuation perspective. But 5 years from now or 10 years from now, we might be laughing at this price because they've seen so much growth.
Yeah.
You just don't know. It's the risk in this game, and whether it's small micro cap stocks or the big ones, there's plenty of places to make money and there's plenty of places to lose it.
Yes, that is very true. I think it is that whole conflating price with value. I think something can be, expensive, but can technically have value. It depends on what you believe in terms of what the future will bring. But definitely from the tone and the themes of the conference, obviously very focused in on AI. So not surprising for
Mm.
NVIDIA to be kind of front and center there.
And
Definitely
so they
less.
probably talked about it from an investing perspective, but did they talk about it relative to our industry? Did you see or learn anything about how people are using AI for what we do, or for financial advisors, not sort of investing in the stocks per se, but their business?
So it's funny, I actually didn't, there was a session kind of on using AI to kind of help with clients and everything like that. I wasn't able to attend it, but I was, as people are walking by the booth, wanted to know kind of, what they've been as advisors, what they're seeing, what's interesting to them, and kind of, what sessions they've been to. One person did attend that. And I think it's basically the same story that you're seeing with AI, which is tech does not solve human problems all the time. You can use it to sometimes automate and help kind of manage some of the busy work or things that you don't want to manage. But I think also, especially for advisors, having that human element, which I think is true across a lot of industries, is still very important. So, whoa, you don't think so? Are you
No,
looking
I'm
at
sorry, I was
missing
distracted
your
by the
hat?
shine off of my head, but
The
no,
human
I agree.
element,
I
see,
totally
it's
agree with that.
important.
No, I
Yeah,
totally
well,
agree.
yeah. So I think that that was definitely, I imagine, a theme that's going to persist. I think it's still a relatively new technology, so people are still trying to figure out how to best use it, how to apply it in a way that you're not losing kind of that connection, that touch, the real thing that makes not advisors valuable, but I think that is a huge element of the relationship between your client and the
Right.
relationship there,
It
and
it's
especially
got to get, and especially what?
I, I was saying, especially as I think there's a generation, advisors are trying to kind of bridge the gap between maybe a previous generation and trying to, pick up new clients. I think that element comes, you do need that human element to really drive that home with the efficiency.
Right.
Yeah.
I was going to only add that, we are in such the early stages and early games of it all. It's still an
Mhm.
environment where, at least for me, even when I use it, you still kind of like double check the answers, right? It doesn't always really get all the answers right, or isn't as thorough as you would hope it to be. And I've definitely had instances where, I'm using Grok really most of the time, where you ask it a question, you get an answer, and I'm like, and then you'd say, "Did you think about this aspect?" And be like, "No, I didn't think about that aspect. When you think about that aspect, I change the answer to this." And so,
Yep.
prompting, verifying, some of my favorite things, I'll see people ask Grok about, other tweets, typically that are coming off the advisor shares account or something like that.
Sure.
And then it'll say, well, based on, X posts, certain people. I'm like, you can't judge the feedback of all X posts the same. And if you're just going for the most vocal, it doesn't mean it's the most correct.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's, cool stuff to use. It's really come in handy, I think, for a lot of things that I've done. But man, yeah, we're on the early stages.
It's true. I hope that people are using it in terms of just like content or things around it, using it less to create more bloat and more. I think,
Right,
ChatGPT can kind of ramble on, or Grok can, I think, to make things more confusing. But I think if people can
right.
use it to, legitimately make things easier to understand, easier to digest, that makes a difference. But yeah,
And
ultimately, you do need
cool
somebody at the helm checking it.
there's cool stuff, and I know you have to do this a lot here, which is Excel, right? You're trying to
Yep.
automate this spreadsheet, or try to figure out the answer to this, or how can I analyze these two things, and what formulas do I need? And I can do the research, I can figure out the Excel formula, but instead I'm like, I have these two spreadsheets and I need the formula that does this. Well, what does that formula look like? Bang, there's the answer. You
Yep.
verify it and check it, but you get such quick answers on things like that. I was messing around, I think, with our email system,
Hmm.
and we use, whatever Microsoft Exchange stuff, and I wanted to put in, one of those lines that says this is from the outside, and like highlight it.
Mhm.
And I'm like, and I could hunt and peck around the admin console, try to figure it out. How do I do this? Boom, and the answer popped right up. It made it super easy. And so that's one less, IT tech support call I need to make. So I've saved money because they're going to bill me per hour to figure it out. And
Sure.
I save a lot of time. So it is super cool.
Yes, I do think that there is, though, a bit of a generational divide. I think, growing up when you didn't have something like this at hand when you were kind of younger, it does develop your ability to kind of problem solve. Even like using AI the way that you're using it to problem solve and fix that. I do worry sometimes about sort of the younger generation coming up. If you kind of have this genie that's able to answer all your problems, solve all your problems, I do wonder if atrophy that skill a little bit or don't develop it ultimately in terms of, I don't know. It makes me think I can
Well,
see. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, you got it. You can see
I
what?
was gonna say I can see my headphones in the screen, and it makes me think of the. I don't know if you have any
Mm,
thoughts on the new Apple translation thing. I
I've
think
ordered it
that's
already.
really okay. All right. I
Yes,
guess you need it.
I
You need it for
I do need
Spanish.
it, right?
Yeah, it's
So
true.
yeah, I'm working on that, and it'll. And then I was just in France, and I was using
Oh
the
yeah.
phone, translator thing, but to be able to hear it in my ears, right? And then really all I need is a piece where I can speak in it, and then it'll audibly tell the person, in their language. But for now, I can just use the screen on the phone. But boy, that's going to make a world of difference. And especially if you are hanging out in areas where mostly people are speaking a different language, just to be able to be in tune with a conversation that's easy for you to do in your own language.
Mhm.
I'll hear all the bad things they're saying about my hair and shiny forehead and stuff like that.
You got to know.
But to
Yeah.
your point earlier, though, that sort of human connection or human whatever, I still am a believer of, yeah, you can get answers on AI, but if you have the ability or have the access or have the relationships that connect with people directly who are some of the subject matter experts, the
Yeah.
color and the experience that may not come through, public data, is also powerful. So the people that I think that take the most advantage are the ones that blend relationships and interactions with, leveraging technology.
Yes, I think you're amplifying and sort of enhancing your own skills with, let them out, but you're not offloading all of your thinking, I guess, ultimately there. Let me
Yeah.
look through some of the comments. Yes, Ogapo, I did definitely think of this. Definitely feels like the Babelfish from Hitchhiker's Guide. It does feel like we are living very much in the future. I know we don't have flying cars just yet, but I know
Yet.
we've got yet. It's possible. We'll see. I did see that. Well, there's a lot of crazy stuff going
Saw a
on.
video on X somewhere of someone taking delivery of the personal drone. I'm like, it's coming, it's coming. I
Yeah,
don't think
it
it goes
is.
very far, but it looked pretty cool. They hopped in it, and I think it was 30 minutes of training, and they were flying around. It looked awesome. I want one of those too
That's
if I can afford it.
Be careful. Be very careful about getting. I feel like that's got to be helicopters, private planes. I feel like are, but I mean, people are going to embrace
I
it,
can't
which is
afford a
good.
private plane, but maybe I can afford a personal drone someday
Well, there you
if
go.
stock
Or you can
prices
just
go up.
there you go. Hang on
Hey,
to a Tabo Jordan.
Mackenzie?
No, that's all good. All right. Let me see. Okay. So it is a smartphone era. Most people will not like it or use it often due to the fear to adapt. Yep. I think you're right. There will be some sort of tech natives, but in a new generation.
It's that is the challenge for the olds, right? That as much as
Yeah.
I can, I'm gonna stay in tune to the current tech and try to not, yeah, try to not let it pass me by, no matter what age I'm at.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, can't let yeah, I think it is a much faster accelerating, I think, ultimately cycle. So you definitely need to keep up. I think you do a great job with that personally. But let's see, blah, 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 blah. Yes, I know there's a lot of uploading to
it holds.
uploading to the cloud. Back to the robots, which is great. Let me see what else. Blah, blah, blah. Also, yes, brain dead, great point. Definitely agree that advisors will use tools. Also, sorry to hear on the job front. That is tough.
Ah,
Um,
with a
but
hosting company. What did it say?
yeah. Oh, sorry. Hosting company.
Oh, that's not going anywhere.
Yeah, that is true.
Bummer.
Yeah, that's tough. I feel like that ties into not quite, but I know I feel like a lot of the data that's been coming in has been tough on the job front for broadly.
I did
Um,
just saw someone on CNBC and they were, bragging, which I guess from a company perspective was good. Maybe it was the company that rang the bell, like Klarma, something like that.
Klarna,
And they were,
buy now
yeah,
pay
and they were
later.
saying something about having 7,000 employees, but with their leveraging and the advancements of AI, which again, not sure if I entirely believe it, but partially believe it. They're down to like 3,500 employees. That's a pretty dramatic, shift. But you know, I think there is an element to that, right? There's a lot of things that I just use the example of one less phone call to IT,
Mhm.
saves a little bit of money and saves a little bit of time. It's, not a perfect solution or an all-in solution, but yeah, you can see the efficiencies and then throw in a little bit of little cyber robots and then what's
We're there. It's
left?
all over. Just robots, yeah. I guess whatever. I don't know. I feel like does that make you nervous around? I know I'm imagining a lot of companies obviously are able to benefit if they are able to make those changes, make those trade-offs. But I imagine that's got to impact if nobody's able to buy stuff as much. That would have a bit of a reckoning, I would imagine, economy-wise. That
I
would,
mean,
I
Elon's
would imagine,
talking
affect that.
about building 1 million robots a year, right? Yeah, like what does that mean to the workforce? What does that mean to the workforce when a truck can drive, 99% of the way that it needs to go to on its own and it doesn't, sleep or eat? And what does it mean if you've got robots that can, identify a grape, right? And
Mhm.
pick them off of a vine and walk day and night, through the fields. What does it mean for people who are moving boxes back and forth off a truck and into the front of your house? Um, yeah, I mean, there's it seems revolutionary change is coming over the next, multiple decades, and it'll
Yeah.
be interesting.
Hopefully it's a net positive, I think, to offload a lot of that labor ultimately. But I think that transition period seems like could be tough and could be choppy. I know we
Yeah,
talk about it more from a
yeah.
market perspective, and I'd imagine that would mean,
Keep your skills in tune, keep learning, find new things, keep getting smarter. Yeah,
great advice. And look
but
out
not
to
me. Just kidding.
protect your portfolio when you need it, I guess, as well. It's yeah, it's tough out there. All right, well then, the only other thing that I not only other thing, but one of the other things I did want to touch on, I know Oracle had a crazy. There you go,
It's up
like the
like
Jetsons.
40%. And now Larry
Yeah,
Ellison's richer than Elon Musk with only his one company, right? Elon Musk is rich with a bunch of different companies.
yeah.
That's bananas.
It's crazy.
Bananas.
Well, what do you make of? I feel like there have been a lot of moves lately where it's been like these big blue chip stocks that have been moving more like meme stocks a little bit, where it's been a little bit like I know it's different. I think with Google because I think getting let out of that lawsuit and being able to retain Chrome, that is probably pretty
Important.
meaningful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Have you seen anything like this in terms of? You've been in the market for a long time. I know it's got to be
No, I mean, I'm the one that keeps
unusual.
saying we keep hitting all-time highs. We talk about protecting your portfolio and hedging and things like that.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm not sure that you're going to need too much over the longer term trends.
Sure.
But as soon as people start saying that, right, the market cuts itself by 10 or 20 or 50%. So
Hmm.
again, I have no clue what's coming. It feels like though there is a sort of a tech or growth renaissance, um, but in such a crazy environment where maybe interest rates are going down, so the cost of capital is going to be cheap. But we have this over-levered country that has just a ton of debt where the interest payments alone are just straining us. But at the same time, got all this tariff craziness going on. Not craziness in a bad way, but just how it's changing and different things going on. But seemingly that's fueling money for the growth of whatever the country, right, or our
Hmm.
balance sheet, but also has its own implications relative to the price that people pay for things. So it's just never a dull moment, it seems like, right, in the world where, and what's
It
going to
is not.
happen next, I don't know. But I do think the trend is strong. And like most things, and like I often tweet, it's going to be, bumpy along the way.
I think that is a fair, normal reminder. Yeah, no, that's true. It, yeah, yeah, that's fair. It feels a little bit off the map. I feel like we've had, I know obviously a little dips and bumps and everything as well, but a relatively strong, consistent, stable period. And it feels like maybe that's shaking up a little bit. So it'll be interesting. I know a lot of,
Yep.
it feels more like relevant. I know we've talked about from an investing perspective, maybe the active side and trying to navigate through some of this can be helpful. Yeah.
I would say that's the favorable thing I feel like I've seen in the last, call it 2 or 3 years, is that we've had enough volatility in the broader markets,
Hmm.
that there has been opportunities for active managers to outperform.
Yeah.
When everything is going straight up, it doesn't matter, right? Index and take the weekend off or whatever. But when you can see choppiness within sectors, when companies or the market isn't being propped up by a Fed balance sheet or something, which I haven't even looked at that in a while, right? We haven't even mentioned the phrase
Neither.
Fed balance sheet in a while.
Hmm.
um, and things can operate more normally, right? Maybe we should have let so few of those banks fail and so on, but and we did actually when it happened about a couple of years ago, and it was Republic and Silicon. But
Hmm.
uh, yeah, I don't know. It's just it's going to be volatility, and if we can have more natural markets, I was forgetting the point I was making. There is the opportunity through stock selection or sector selection or thematic selection to be able to add some value for clients. I feel like we've seen that in our short funds, right?
Hmm.
Their ability to provide some alpha and not just be a negative sort of 1x to the market.
Hmm.
That's been nice. You see it with guys, like Eddie. We've seen it with Dan and
Yeah.
thematic strategies, and you know, that's good. I like that environment as an advocate of active management, and I
Yeah.
should say
I think.
long-term active management. I have no insider edge for traders, by the way, everybody.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I guess what do you make of? I feel like it's important to communicate, important to
The drama
still be out
yesterday.
there, still be chatting. Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on?
Yeah. It's interesting, right? It's funny. I could see so so many alerts, right? Bing, bing, bing. It's going on. I was like, oh my God, people are freaking
Yeah.
out.
Mhm.
But when I say people, it's like, I don't know who these people are, right? They're all in pretty much anonymous accounts, not all of them. Um, so I don't know, I don't know who they are. I don't know what their incentives are. I don't know anything about those
Sure.
things, right? All I know is, a couple things. One, I do have a compliance and a regulatory infrastructure we have to tend to here.
Mhm.
Which a side note, by the way, I think we've talked about how we've had an SEC exam, gosh, like
Yeah.
a year and a half ago, but it was a full exam on the advisor and on the trust itself. Historically, they'll do one or the other because it's just a lot of information to review. But we had one of the follow-up calls today, and people like to throw around the SEC stuff so lightly. It's like, oh, we talk to them periodically. It's kind of no big deal for us. But the funny thing about the call today was there was 9 people on the call. 9, which is bananas. And it was from all different departments. And I'm like, this is our way to kind of learn. We cover the questions like that. And we are focusing things on actually on volatility, right? There's new rules around VAR testing and things like that. So interesting call, interesting conversation. From our perspective, all went fine, and I think it was more sort of informational sharing than anything else. But that's a real thing, right? Compliance and the regulatory environment and what we can say and can't say is important. And I would say one, it's probably why for most it's better just to follow the advisor shares account, and you're going to get what I'd call more marketing kind of information, disclosures when it mentions products, things like that for mine or your
Information.
account. And I think ours are both different, right? So I'm licensed, but you're not. So I have this other
Mhm.
set of things I have to adhere to being licensed. But the nice thing is, one, I'm just happy to have the luxury to be able to communicate on social platforms,
Yeah.
right? For the longest time, that was challenging within our industry. And one of the nice things about the rules that allow the licensed person to engage on that is because it's interactive content, right? So on your
Mhm.
website where you can't really interact with people and answer questions, there's a whole set of standards. You got the content fair and balanced. You got a ton of disclosure and things like that. But thankfully, the regulators and FINRA specifically has allowed some latitude for the people in the industry to participate on interactive forums where everyone can see the interaction, right? And
Mhm.
we store and retain all the conversations. I think I've mentioned that before, right? Just as a reminder, whatever we post, whatever you respond to on our posts, you DM us, all stored and retained.
Mhm.
Just like our email and everything else, all of our
Yeah.
other digital written things, which also cost money, by the way. So
Mm.
I'm hoping you'll cover that too after you cover the conference.
Let's see how
But
cannabis talks for today. We'll see. Yeah.
so anyways, we have that environment, but one of the cool things is we can interact, on these social channels. And so yeah, for me I think it's fun. I mean, didn't seem so fun yesterday, but um and I'm not, I'm here to just it's educational, it's my take on stuff, it's whatever, right? And I think if I take away some feedback from yesterday, and I think I still have someone to respond to on X about that. I think someone
Mm.
was like, so you don't see any that you did anything wrong. I'm like, in the whole scheme of
Yeah.
things, not really. But my takeaway from it is, oh, sure, yeah, it'd be better to fully explain things out and type away. I see this, and I see this, and I see this. It doesn't
Mhm.
really matter.
Mhm.
Um, I don't need to. I can see where that could be more thorough for some people, but I'm not
Mhm.
tweeting or posting things for some people, right? I'm doing it for myself just to share some insight, and for people that appreciate it and follow me, great. If
Mhm.
you find it confusing and distracting, don't follow me. There was an
Mhm.
interesting theme, though, in terms of most of the people that were chattering. Really interesting in that there were people that didn't follow me, and I didn't tag a product or anything in my post. So you would need to come find it, right? You'd have to come find me to be able to comment and have it affect your life in some way. So something weird and fishy and suspicious about that, but same thing. I don't care. Um, but yeah, I should probably give a little bit more color to what I was talking about. Though again, with the caveat, we don't break news. We don't have any
Yeah.
insight to help you actively trade. We try to build tools that you can trade around, and you got all the tools in the world out there, but you'll learn nothing from me that gives you at least an active trading edge. I don't think I've ever said anything that I would find helpful. I do think hopefully product education,
Yeah.
structure education, process education, to the extent that you find, our, because you share market views too, Mackenzie,
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
our market view is interesting, that's great. But we constantly say, like, listen, if you're uncomfortable, don't understand, call for the love of God, right? Call a financial advisor. But if you're an
Mhm.
active trader, we have zero value. And if you're taking data points in like that of what I'd consider, it's my opinion, right? If you find it valuable, you do, I guess. I don't know why. But but if you're taking in data that isn't helpful to help you in that process, it seems like you're not going to achieve your goals.
Mhm.
With all that being said, yeah, for me, I was looking, I was watching the close, watching what was really a fantastic day, watching it already start to deteriorate. And we knew early in the day, right? We'd got an alert about the newsletter post for the other ETF. We saw that volume take off like crazy. And I wrote, could be a whatever, a rough ending of the day, because I
Mhm.
saw a couple of things converging actually. So again, to give a thorough explanation, even some of the people that said, "Well, you should have said the newsletter, and you should have said what
Yeah.
else? The newsletter. Oh,
It,
and I should have mentioned
call
the
it the
trading
actual
volume."
ticker. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
and the trading volume, right? Because I
sure.
didn't say, hey, there's a product out there that has 50x, over 50x. I think it was like 56 times its most recent 10-day average daily trading volume, which if you look at all the ETFs as a group, that number is much higher than their 90-day average daily trading volume. So I'm looking at the same data anybody else can look at. I've never commented, in the middle of the day about anything that's gone on that I know internally about stuff that happens here. Um, so I saw the newsletter, and again, anyone else that's actively watching, most people are just doing their thing throughout the day and they'll check it at night or check it on the weekend. But for those that, spend time on the space like we do,
Mhm.
um, we saw the newsletter announcement, saw the volume pick up, saw a fantastic performance day, but we know the space is volatile even intraday.
Yep.
And as I watched all that, I thought, I know those guys. I know their fund is smaller. I don't know that they have the process in place. Maybe they do, but I don't know that they have the process in place to try to match up at the end of the day, kind of the thing that Bruce was referring to in his comment. And for me, it wasn't actually just those things. Then I was coupling it with nice uptick in performance. Interestingly enough, us lagging our 10-day average daily trading volume, right? So we are actually below the
Mhm.
10-day average. But at the same time, too, I think at one point, I got to make sure I'm referring to this creatively, but the leverage version was up a lot in the middle of the day. But even as you got towards the end of the day, it was up double digits. And so, what I think a lot of people, some people realize, but maybe not a lot of people realize, is that product is usually transacting at the end of the day. So when you see a lot of that activity that's happening towards the end, it's just part of the rebalancing process. And people understand in a downward market, the downside of having that product is it can put some downward pressure, right? At least on its underlying thing. Um, and on
Sentiment.
the nice up days, it can really, surge. And so, at that point in time, I saw one, you had what could have been, and we also know flows don't always come in when you see the volume on that day, right?
Yep.
So we experienced that ourselves. We can have a high volume day, and then people are always like, "Where's the money?" And it's like, market makers will come in when they want to. For all we know, people start selling the next few days, and the market maker doesn't need to create it all, so it saves them some money because there's a transaction cost. They have to pay a create a redeem fee to do it. And since they work on razor thin margins, they'd like to avoid it if they can, but they also don't want to carry a lot of capital on their balance sheet because then they have net capital requirements because this industry is complicated. Um, but I saw that we had that product, looking to be ending the day, in double digits, and it'd be a real battle, right? The scenario I was envisioning is possibly some significant flows for that product, right? And I think that product traded probably 80% of its total net asset value that day. Whereas for us on any given day, we're trading on a good day, we're trading 5%, 10% in that range.
Well,
And we also know it only takes a little to do a lot in the space. So I saw what would be hopefully us putting buying pressure if that positive performance would stay through the end of the day. Tons of trading volume, exponential trading volume on that product. Having a perception that would cause some historic volatility, as we're those of you that are spending time with us and have exhaustively talked about, this hedging process that happens at the end of the day when you have creates or redeems. I thought, holy shit, this could be a rough day. I left out the holy shit part.
Well,
Um, and then bam, my
uh,
my engagement score went up very high. And it went up high with people who I don't know. And here's where I guess where I want to be careful what I say, because I love people and I love humanity. But I don't
mhm,
care what they have to say. And there are people that I know. Dan, the chart guy. No, I mean I don't know him, but I internet know him, and I
mhm,
think what he does is fine and good. And I certainly would respect his opinion. I respect Bruce's opinion. People that I know who have thoughts and views, I'm always happy to hear it. I might disagree, but that's okay too.
mhm,
The rest of it's just noise, and it's interesting noise, right? I was trying to, respond to a couple people to really point out some days, investing in the cannabis space, you're coming across all these people who seem very much not cannabis, which actually reminds
mhm.
me of a really important point. I probably need you to write this down. I need you to not buy any glasshouse flower and not bring it back to the office. Do not do that. Okay?
Got it.
Are
Loud
we
and
clear?
clear.
Don't
Got it.
do that.
Any particular
Anyways,
type of thing you would want me not to bring back?
I want you to spend as much as you can. I'm sorry, I don't want you to spend anything at all on the
Got
highest premium buds that you can find, but don't
sure.
don't do that. I'm saying people in the state should do that and keep it there, but you absolutely should not do that.
Got it.
Anyways, what's funny is you see what seem like very much not cannabis people investing in the cannabis space, which I get it. They're traders and they're trading ball, and I get all of that. Makes sense.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so it was just, it was the outrage crowd. And what I really have not enjoyed about that group, as we've gone through this process now for 5 years, is this environment, right, where they just crap on people so hard and seemingly in a group and seemingly coordinated. And again, unusual that they don't follow my account and they wouldn't have been triggered by any, cash tag because I didn't put one in there. Um,
Mhm,
and it seems the goal is to sort of stifle what people say, right? Why does that matter? Why is that important to them? If you don't like what someone says, just don't follow them. And that's what
mhm,
we have in this environment now. We used to have, and I'll use Todd as a great example. Todd has great insight and he's got great connections and he talks to people all day and every day.
mhm,
And man, that guy has good insight. Does it mean everything that he hears is going to come true? Of course not. Do I trust that he's being honest and sharing kindly? Well, technically we pay for it, but everyone else who gets it on X, who he's not charging a fee to, and he gives that, or used to really give that away for free. Wow, what a gift, and what a blessing, and you can do whatever you want to with that information. Again, if you got to the point where you thought you don't like him or you don't trust him, well, then don't follow him, right? Don't read it. But instead, you get the outrage crew that has this real stifling effect, and I don't think that's been a good thing for the investors in this space. You want the Todds and the Bruces of the world to communicate their insight and share freely based on their experience and what they're seeing, and it doesn't mean all those things are going to come true. And so I think that's the environment we have now. I could name off like 5 to 10 different things, that's been shared with me that there's no way I would share because there's a reasonable chance it won't happen.
mhm,
And then you're just going to get crapped on for being kind enough to share some information. So that's not to say that's what I did yesterday. I just was like, oh, this could be a
mhm,
rough close. That was it.
mhm,
Um, it could, and that was on an awesome, positive green day.
mhm,
And so when you see the outrage crowd like that, it is, it's concerning, but I don't care. I don't care what they think. No one's going to control what I have to say except compliance and the regulators. They do get to. It's not that free of a country for me.
Yep.
But I'm well aware, of what my rules are. Well aware. Um, so yeah, it sucks and it's kind of disappointing, but it helps me figure out what accounts to mute. So, honestly, I would have set up until yesterday. I don't know, the last many months of my experience on X. I've got so many of the crazies muted. It's pleasant. I don't see the negativity that people talk about seeing in the space. So it's only when some of these accounts, pop out of the blue and think what they have to say is valuable information to me. I don't care. And again, I don't want to say I don't care about people. I'm all for humanity, and I do have compassion for people. But it doesn't matter. It won't change what I do. And I'll try next time to give a further explanation. But to be honest, if that's what you're constantly looking for from me, I'm not a good follow for you. So yeah,
I
you
will
don't have to worry
say,
about it.
I will say, I think the majority, obviously, I think you see a sliver of people who are following the cannabis space or like the investing space from that perspective. I think you are, so it feels like 100% of people who are interacting are, very polarized. They either have a very strong opinion one way or the other, or have comments or thoughts. I do think that, in my mind, represents a much smaller proportion of the larger sphere. I know it's very, people who are on
Oh
it,
yeah,
kind of in.
yeah,
I think that is an important, reminder. I think there are probably people who do
right.
want the information, but I
I
think it is
call them
obviously,
the
I understand.
vocal, right, but I call them the vocal minority, but that's the effect that they have
Sure, yes,
on
that's how I
people,
think.
right?
Sure.
And
Yeah.
so then they have an impact on the non-vocal majority, and the non-vocal majority loses out. Is that a sneeze? Bless you. the
Good
the
catch.
non-vocal
So,
the non-vocal majority loses out on insight from really smart, intelligent
yes.
people
Yeah.
because of this outrage crew, right?
Yes.
And I don't mind the Wolf of Wheat Street, right? Jason, we all know who he is. He's exactly who he comes out to be, right? So love it or hate it, trust him or not. At least he's willing to own up to what he says. Even the betting bruiser stuff from a couple of weeks ago, I saw that. I don't. I'm indifferent, right? I'm going to make an assessment of what I've heard, right? And what I think
Mhm.
I know. I'm going to look at his comments and then make an assessment of, do I think he's trustworthy? Do I think he's reliable? Even if he is all of those things, it still may not happen. And it obviously didn't. But do I want him to not share those things? I'd rather live in a world where he does share those things. And I'll be accountable for what I do with that information. I won't hold it against him. So certainly it would be pleasant if we had more of that in kind of environment. I get that that's not the reality of the world, but to the extent that people think they're going to comment and tag me in something and dictate what I'm going to say or not say, eh,
Not so
I
much. I
only
will
will
also
listen
say
to whatever McKinsey has to say.
that is fair. Yeah, right. Yeah, I also think in terms of having an emotional, not disconnect from it, but not having it emotionally rattle you one way or the other, or I think being able to maintain a level head through kind of crazy stuff,
And you
makes a
probably
difference.
were from partying all night at that conference.
Getting crazy. The funny thing about it, I don't think I saw any. It was a Bush concert that they put on,
Oh, really?
and
Oh,
I
that's
think
right. I'd heard, but I totally forgot that was last night.
yeah. So it was last night. So it was a kind of a fun thing. It was kind of cool. It was obviously not obviously future proof is along the beach. So there were some people who were on the beach side who kind of hung out and were hanging out. That it was very nice. I think there was more alcohol than I would imagine, but people did seem pretty moderate. I think I only smelled like once or twice anything that's something cannabis related, which is
Was
surprising.
it
I think people
yours?
are not not mine, not Dan, although it could have been, and he I think is tempted to do some due diligence out there, or out here, I guess. But yeah, no, I think well said. Agreed as well.
Oh,
Let me see if there are any
yeah.
comments there.
Thanks, Independent. I
Independent,
like that
love
name.
it,
It's a good name.
solid one, and thanks for joining us next. I
Um,
feel like there's a lot of people
Top
on
three
next.
of your favorite Bush songs. Name them.
I learned about glycerin, and that's where my list ends.
I think it's Glycerine.
Exactly right. Perfectly
Um,
done. But it was good. He gave good concert.
yeah. Was it full on band or acoustic? Anything like that?
Full on band. Full on band. A lot of people kind of mouthing along, which was kind of fun.
Would you have said before hearing them you
And
were a Bush fan or indifferent or?
I would say pretty indifferent, but I think walking away from it, I think they gave a good concert. I think a lot of people really enjoyed it. Sat with an advisor who we were swapping stories about when he had listened to what he'd been listening to recently, been to a or not a Gwen Stefani concert, a Lady Gaga concert. So I feel like that was a hard comparison.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Very
no, I think it
different.
was good. I think a
Very
lot of people
different.
enjoyed it. It's good.
What band are you listening to lately that you like that people might
Ooh,
not be aware of that you get a chance to promote
ooh, a
them
good
for free?
plug. All right, let me get into my Apple Music and see what I've been getting into. Do you have anything that's top of mind? Let me see my liked songs.
I'm such a mainstream music listener, and I'll
Top five.
definitely do all genres. I'll do a little country, I'll do a little pop, I'll do a little rock. I
All
like it
right.
all. I love
Uh,
music. I wish I
oh,
was musically talented, but I am not.
oh, dang. All right.
Um,
All right. What I've been listening to that has been good. I could do a made for you.
are
I
you going
have
to the
sadly,
playlist?
yeah. Go into my playlist. What have I been listening to? I feel like a lot of weirdly more.
Weird Al Yankovic?
Soul music?
Oh,
Weird Al
look at
Yankovic.
you.
Love. I have not seen the movie. Uh, What's a
Oh,
good
that's right.
one?
There is a movie out about that. I should watch
I
that.
think
I watched
it's
the Pee Wee
supposed
Herman
to
one,
be.
by the way. I thought that was
How was
interesting.
it?
Paul Rubens. Oh, that was good.
Okay, all right.
Interesting to
All
hear
right.
his perspective on his life, and interesting to see the movie has a real interesting twist at the end. You should, if you're interested or whatever, grew up watching Pee Wee Herman, should watch it.
I have heard that. Okay, I would say what I have on my list, my
Oh,
most
hold
recent
on.
listen to, what is it?
I think is that a
Okay,
big?
getting a plug-in. I would say, dang, this is really hard for some reason, even though it is not. Last thing I listened to was Tiny Tim, which is crazy.
Okay.
So I don't know why that is. I don't know what's like a
Is
good.
it on like the shuffle or the radio, right? Where it'll feed you stuff you may
I
not
can
have
go to
picked per se.
my station is a really depressing song called "You" by Oscar Lang. Uh, let's see. Look on
I'm a
yonder wall,
Shabuzi
Elmo
fan.
James. You are all right.
Oh my God, yeah.
These are my
The bar
mix.
song, which was popular, right? So it's not like I'm breaking any like, oh, this is alternative. It's a great
Here's a
song.
perfect one, which is not quite. I'll Take the Blame by the Stanley Brothers.
All right, nice.
Solid. I don't have any good
Um,
solid ones. What about
all
you?
right, well, as we're getting
Yours.
close to running out of time, I do want to say maybe to help turn some frowns upside down, we got to do some good Giving Friday stuff. So we've got to go back to the scooter stuff. We got to make the donation to the early stage dementia. And I think we're doing one to Mission Green there. Dan sent me something focusing on kids based out of Dallas. And I thought there was one more that we were supposed to
There's
do.
one good takeaway, which also ties into the conference. One of the
Mhm.
booths had the best idea, which was I had not posted it, but I'll post it after this. Best idea of having a dog rescue
Oh,
thing. So they brought in puppies, basically. So I
nice.
don't know if they have any cute
Puppies
ones.
always make people smile.
They are a solid one, and I know Jane has that. Jane Jungle Java has that. Look at this. How could you resist that?
Oh shoot. My
What's she
shirt might be
doing?
in today.
All right. I expect a modeling picture on social media by end
I'll
of day.
post it. I'm going to post it at 3:45 and just let the traders do what they're
Absolutely.
going to do.
All right. Fair enough. All right. Well, thanks for joining. Really appreciate it. Everyone, thanks for being here. I feel like this is a fun one in terms of a good amount of comments, good amount
When
of.
are you back home?
I am getting on a plane pretty soon after this. Wanted to make sure
So you'll be
getting
here
this knocked
today?
out. I will be here probably later today. I forget about the plus 3 hour thing. It feels so
Which,
early here, getting up
not
early
that
this
we should
morning.
be talking about too much work stuff, but I meant to check to
I
make
know
sure we
that's
had the room booked for the board meeting tomorrow. Do you recall if that's booked?
it is booked and done. So it's booked and
Okay.
done, and we can do it in the
Thank
same
you.
building. So that's great.
And then
If
I'm
not,
taking care of dinner reservations. Sorry, everybody, you're hearing all this internal planning, but I'm
virtually,
going to call this morning and try to get that booked.
that sounds good. I'll get
But yeah.
breakfast stuff together.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Perfect.
All right. Well,
All
safe
right.
travels.
That's it.
Thanks for everybody for tuning in. Thanks for everybody for the support. Feel free to give me feedback on stuff that if you don't like, I'll try to take it to heart. But thanks for the support more than anything else. It means a lot to us.
Fantastically said. All right. That sounds good. Thanks everyone for being here. We will catch you tomorrow. Thanks so much, everyone. Bye.
Before investing, carefully consider the investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses found in the prospectus, available at advisorshares.com.